Imagine stepping through a rusted gate where laughter once soared like fireworks in the night sky, only to find silence. The roller coasters stand frozen mid-scream, the carousel horses frozen in mid-gallop, and the cotton candy smell has long since faded. Yet, if you listen closely, you can hear faint echoes, whispers of joy, sorrow, and secrets buried in the shadows of abandoned rides. These are America's forgotten amusement parks. Some were dreams that soared too high, others nightmares that no one dared remember. But all of them share one thing. They disappeared without a trace. Almost. Chapter 1. The Ghosts Behind the Gates. In the summer of 1972, nestled just outside Cincinnati, Ohio, Rainbow Falls Amusement Park opened its gates to a city hungry for thrills. Unlike the sprawling giants of Disney or Six Flags, Rainbow Falls was smaller, intimate, a place where local families could escape their routines for a day of wonder. Its centerpiece was a massive waterfall that cascaded over a rockwork cliff, creating a mist that glimmered with rainbow hues. Children pressed their faces against the glass of the funhouse mirrors. Adults spun on teacup rides, and the scent of popcorn mingled with the sweet tang of metal rides heated by the sun. But even as the park flourished, rumors spread. Workers whispered of rides that moved on their own at night, of shadows lingering too long near the bumper cars, and of a carousel horse that would occasionally disappear, only to return damaged and scratched in the dead of night. Management laughed it off as tales from bored teens, but families began noticing strange patterns. Children would have nightmares about the park, even days after a visit. Some claimed to have heard music in empty parking lots, and on rare occasions, visitors reported being unable to find the exit for hours, wandering through a maze of rides that shouldn't have existed. By 1978, Rainbow Falls abruptly closed. The gates were locked, the signs taken down, and no official explanation was ever provided. Locals still speak of it in hushed tones, of late-night trespassers catching glimpses of rides spinning under the moonlight, of the smell of cotton candy and abandoned fields, and of a park that refuses to die entirely. Chapter 2. Lost Maps and Faded Tickets. Across the Midwest, similar stories emerged. Luna Vista, a once thriving amusement park in southern Illinois, had been designed around the concept of adventure through time. Each section represented a different era. The prehistoric zone had animatronic dinosaurs roaring over wooden tracks. The medieval kingdom featured jousting shows with real knights. And the futuristic dome promised laser light shows decades ahead of their time. Tickets for Luna Vista were a prized commodity. Yet over the years, mysterious incidents began to plague the park. Rides malfunctioned without explanation, staff disappeared without notice, and visitors occasionally reported time lapses, moments where hours passed in what felt like minutes or vice versa. One summer evening in 1983, Luna Vista held its final closing ceremony, or so the media reported. Locals swear that on stormy nights, lights can still be seen behind the crumbling walls, shadows moving through the ruins, and the distant echo of screams, joyful or terrified, lingering in the wind. Maps of these parks are now collector's items. Torn ticket stubs from Rainbow Falls or Luna Vista fetch hundreds of dollars on auction sites. But more than monetary value, they serve as cryptic reminders of places that were never meant to be forgotten, even as time tries to erase them. Chapter 3. The Culture of Abandonment. Why did so many parks disappear? Some fell victim to financial ruin, unable to compete with nationwide chains. Others closed under mysterious circumstances,
fires, accidents, or legal battles that silence the public narrative. But there is a darker, almost folkloric pattern. Parks often disappeared suddenly, leaving behind empty rides, silent arcades, and ghost towns of food stalls. Historians suggest a combination of factors. The 1970s and 1980s were times of economic turbulence, with gas prices, inflation, and suburban expansion reshaping entertainment industries. Safety regulations tightened, and insurance premiums skyrocketed. Yet in nearly every case, locals recall something more, a feeling of unease, of a place that had grown too alive in ways that were uncomfortable for adults, too strange for a normal family day.
Chapter 4: The Roller Coaster That Never Stopped. In upstate New York, nestled among dense pine forests and rolling hills, stood Evergreen Thrills, a park renowned for its massive wooden roller coaster, the Iron Serpent. The coaster was a marvel of engineering in 1965, its tracks twisting through the treetops with hairpin turns and sudden drops that sent screams echoing across the hills. Families came from miles away, eager to test their courage on the famous ride. But Evergreen Thrills had a reputation beyond its thrills. Rumors circulated of a roller coaster that never stopped. Park operators laughed it off, citing mechanical glitches and exaggerations, but eyewitness accounts persisted. On quiet nights, after the park had officially closed, locals reported seeing the coaster cars moving on their own, chains rattling, wheels squealing, yet no one in sight. Those who ventured close claimed to hear faint laughter, high-pitched and eerie, floating across the forest. The park closed suddenly in 1976 after a tragic accident, though the circumstances were never fully explained. Investigators found no mechanical faults. Today, hikers report that the silhouette of the Iron Serpent looms among the trees, a skeleton of twisted wood. Yet some claim the coaster still moves when the moon rises high. Chapter 5: Cotton Candy and Shadows. Down in Florida, near Tampa, Sunshine Spectacle Park was a colorful carnival paradise in the 1950s. With its tropical landscaping, flamingo statues, and boardwalk games, it was considered a family-friendly destination. But by 1963, something changed. Employees reported seeing figures that weren't human, shadows flitting between rides, vanishing when approached. Some believed it was a prank by the local teens. Others whispered of spirits trapped in the park, unwilling to leave. Guests sometimes felt watched, and parents noticed children clinging to them tightly, insisting they saw people with no faces. The park closed quietly after a small fire destroyed the arcade. Even now, when walking along the abandoned pathways, locals swear they smell sugar and popcorn, as if the park remembers its past and longs for visitors who will never come. Chapter 6: Luna's Curse. The legend of Luna Amusement Park in California became one of the most infamous in amusement history. Opened in 1968 on the outskirts of Los Angeles, it featured extravagant light shows, experimental rides, and a towering Ferris wheel visible for miles. Its founder, Silas Luna, was a charismatic yet secretive man, obsessed with creating the perfect amusement experience. Riders reported strange occurrences, whispers in the dark tunnels, lights that flickered in patterns resembling faces, and rides stopping abruptly for no reason. One evening, a journalist investigating the park disappeared inside a funhouse, never to be found. Luna claimed it was an accident, but rumors persisted of a curse placed upon the park, a soul trap for those who dared explore its mysteries too deeply. Luna Amusement Park closed in 1975 after a string of unexplained injuries. Today, Urban explorers speak of hearing distorted carnival music and seeing Ferris wheel shadows gliding across the night sky. Proof, they say, that Luna never truly left. Chapter 7. Arcades of the Forgotten. Beyond roller coasters and carousels, abandoned parks are filled with quieter relics, the arcades. Mystic Falls Arcade, located in Missouri, thrived in the 1970s. Its pinball machines sparkled with neon lights, and skee-ball lanes echoed with the metallic clatter of balls. But as families moved to larger corporate parks, Mystic Falls fell into decline. But the arcade had its own secrets. Some machines seemed to play themselves, screens flashing high scores no one had achieved. Teenagers sneaked in after hours, only to find tickets printing endlessly, a single coin triggering jackpots worth thousands. One visitor, a local historian, claimed that the machines were powered by something alive, a remnant of the park's energy, preserving the echoes of joy and desperation in loops that never ended. Mystic Falls closed in 1980. Today, metal shutters and shattered windows hide the arcade, but those who dare peek through the cracks swear they can see the flicker of neon lights, as if the machines are calling them back.
Chapter 8. The Carnival That Disappeared Overnight. In rural Pennsylvania, there once existed a small amusement park known as Whispering Pines. Opening in 1962, it catered primarily to locals, boasting a modest Ferris wheel, a wooden roller coaster, and a carousel with hand-carved horses. Families loved its quaint charm. Then, one spring morning in 1974, the park was gone. Not abandoned, gone. Residents claimed that overnight, every structure had vanished. Only the parking lot remained, overgrown with weeds. Locals swore that when walking through the surrounding woods, they could hear faint laughter carried by the wind, even though no one had been seen for decades. Urban legends suggest that Whispering Pines had been built over a geological fault, a thin spot where reality itself could fold, allowing the park to slip into another dimension. Chapter 9. Steel Giants and Silent Screams. The Midwest was dotted with massive steel coasters in the 1970s, but few were as infamous as Titan's Peak in Indiana. Opening in 1970, it boasted the tallest coaster in the state, a twisted behemoth of steel and wood. Thrill seekers traveled from hundreds of miles away to test their courage. But Titan's Peak had a reputation for strange accidents. Ride operators reported safety restraints unlocking mid-ride, rides stalling at the highest point for minutes, and ghostly figures appearing on tracks. After a series of unexplained injuries in 1975, the park abruptly shut down. When historians examined blueprints years later, they found sections of track that had never been built, or maybe, in some way, still existed in another form, somewhere between reality and memory. Chapter 10. The Music That Refused to Die. Across Louisiana, Bayou Breeze Park once offered families a mix of rides, carnival games, and live jazz performances. Its signature attraction was an indoor amphitheater where nightly concerts brought in crowds from across the state. After a devastating hurricane in 1981, the park was officially closed. But local fishermen and river travelers reported something strange. At night, faint jazz music floated across the water, coming from no visible source. Some claimed to see spectral figures dancing near the empty rides, as if the park's joy had imprinted itself permanently onto the land. Musicians who visited the site swore that the music seemed to change depending on their moods, almost alive with emotion. Chapter 11. The Photographer's Last Frame. In Arizona, Desert Mirage Amusement Park rose amidst arid sands and jagged mesas. Photographers flocked to capture the park's unique desert aesthetic. sand-colored rides, cactus-shaped carousels, and sun-bleached signage. But in 1978, a young photographer named Marcus Turner disappeared inside the park. His last roll of film, later discovered in a hidden locker, contained images no one could explain. Roller coasters mid-air without riders, shadows shaped like people but without faces, and one photo that seemed to show Marcus himself smiling at the camera, but in a scene that did not exist in reality. Desert Mirage was closed permanently, left to the desert winds. Yet some explorers claim that if you visit on the right day, the sun's glare can reflect off a hidden sign, "Welcome back." Chapter 12. The Forgotten Parade. Not all amusement park mysteries are tied to rides. In Ohio, Silverleaf Park was renowned for its annual parade, where floats depicted fairy tale kingdoms, futuristic cities, and historical reenactments. Townspeople lined the streets, waving flags and tossing candy into the crowds. Then one year, the parade never happened. No announcement, no explanation. Townspeople went to the park only to find the floats abandoned, costumes rotting, and confetti still clinging to benches. Over time, stories emerged that the parade had been cursed, a result of a rivalry between park owners who dabbled in occult practices. Some locals swore that during late autumn, when the wind is right, you can hear music and drum beats from the parade, echoing across empty streets, as if the festival never truly ended. By now, the story has begun to connect multiple forgotten parks across the country, blending eerie legends, tragic accidents, and ghostly remnants of joy. The narrative style combines immersive storytelling with historical and geographical context, designed to grip readers and make them feel the presence of these vanished amusement worlds. Chapter 13. The Shadows of Liberty Park. In New Jersey, Liberty Park opened in 1967, a medium-sized park with patriotic themes, towering statues, miniature battleships, and a Ferris wheel painted like the American flag. Families flocked there, especially during summer holidays. Yet employees reported seeing shadows that didn't belong to anyone, especially near the Hall of Mirrors. Children sometimes disappeared from sight for brief moments, only to reappear seconds later, disoriented and scared. One summer, a group of teens dared each other to explore the park after closing. They reported corridors that twisted impossibly, rides looping in impossible directions, and a carousel horse that seemed to follow them wherever they went. Liberty Park closed in 1982 after a mysterious fire consumed the funhouse. Today, the site is overgrown with weeds. Locals whisper that on stormy nights, the Ferris wheel can still be seen turning, its lights flickering like a warning.
Chapter 14. The Final Season of Crescent Moon. Crescent Moon Amusement Park in Georgia was famed for its lakeside roller coaster and haunted mansion attraction. Built in 1971, it thrived for a decade. Families loved the combination of thrilling rides and theatrical performances. But in 1981, visitors began reporting unexplainable phenomena. Actors in the haunted mansion swore they were being followed by figures that didn't exist. Children refused to enter certain rides, claiming they remembered us. Crescent Moon's management dismissed these claims until a tragic accident occurred, a ride malfunction that killed 2 employees in a way that couldn't be fully explained. The park closed indefinitely afterward. Urban explorers today claim the haunted mansion remains alive, with doors opening and closing on their own, and eerie laughter echoing across empty corridors. Crescent Moon seems to have absorbed the energy of its visitors, refusing to completely fade into memory. Chapter 15. Arcadia's Lost Kingdom. In California's Central Valley,
Arcadia Kingdom was a short-lived but ambitious park, boasting a castle, artificial lakes, and exotic animal shows. Opened in 1975, it was designed to rival Disneyland on a smaller scale. Arcadia Kingdom's downfall was mysterious. Visitors recalled rides stopping mid-journey, lights that flickered in unnatural colors, and occasional glimpses of figures dressed in old-fashioned costumes who vanished instantly. The park's closure was abrupt, with no official announcement. Legend has it that Arcadia Kingdom wasn't just abandoned, it forgot itself. People who visit the ruins today speak of paths that change direction, fountains that flow uphill, and castle walls that whisper names in the wind. Arcadia Kingdom became a park trapped between memory and reality. Chapter 16. The Forgotten Legends of the Midwest. The Midwest was home to dozens of smaller parks, many of which are entirely forgotten today. Rusty Pines in Michigan, Shadow Glen in Illinois, and Twilight Gardens in Ohio were all victims of economic hardship, but local legends hint at something more sinister. Visitors to these parks often reported time loops, moments where hours passed in seconds or minutes stretched impossibly long. Photographs developed from old cameras sometimes showed ghostly riders, smiling yet expressionless, caught mid-motion in rides that no longer existed. Children visiting these parks sometimes spoke of voices calling them back, even decades later. Some historians speculate that these parks were not just abandoned, they were absorbed by the collective memory of their visitors, leaving remnants that refused to vanish entirely. Chapter 17. Nightfall over the Forgotten Parks. As the decades passed, the amusement park industry shifted. Large chains dominated, small parks dwindled. Yet the abandoned parks remained, a patchwork of memories, ruins, and whispers. Urban explorers today find rides overgrown with ivy, carousels frozen mid-gallop, and Ferris wheels rusted yet eerily intact. Photographers capture flashes of light where no electricity exists, and visitors hear laughter carried by the wind. Some claim these parks are portals of memory, places where the joy, fear, and wonder of generations linger. The story of America's forgotten amusement parks is not only one of failure and decay, it's a story of persistence, of energy and emotion refusing to die. In the quiet of the night, if you stand among the rusting rides and broken gates, you can hear echoes of the past calling, urging you to remember what was lost and to wonder what might still remain. Chapter 18. The Echoes Grow Stronger. By the late 1980s, most small parks across the United States had vanished, overtaken by corporate chains and urban expansion. Yet, in the abandoned corners of towns and forests, the forgotten parks persisted, not physically as thriving spaces, but as shadows in memory. Visitors who dared to explore these ruins began reporting unusual patterns. Roller coaster cars that seemed to move without wind or power. Music from broken speakers echoing in harmony with the rustling leaves, and faint voices calling names long forgotten. Families who had once visited these parks claimed that even decades later, their dreams were haunted by fleeting glimpses of rides, games, and performers they could not fully remember. It was as though the parks were no longer bound by geography. They existed in the minds and memories of all who had ever stepped inside. And as the echoes grew stronger, some explorers began leaving the ruins shaken, feeling as though something unseen had been observing them, cataloging their curiosity.
Chapter 19. A Gathering of Ghosts. In a quiet valley in Oregon, a group of urban explorers gathered one summer night to document the remnants of Silver Pines Amusement Park, a place that had closed nearly 40 years prior.
The park had become a labyrinth of overgrown paths, toppled rides, and skeletal carousels. As they moved deeper, strange coincidences began. Shadows appeared in multiple places at once. Footsteps echoed when no one moved, and a distant carousel melody seemed to follow them through the park. One explorer, photographing the main Ferris wheel, captured an image of children in old-fashioned clothes sitting in the empty gondolas, smiling directly at the camera. When the photograph developed, the faces were gone, but the echoes remained. It became clear the parks were not abandoned. They were inhabited by the memories of all who had loved them, and perhaps by something older and stranger, something that refused to fade even when the lights went out. Chapter 20. The Last Ride. As the story of America's forgotten amusement parks comes to its close, one thing is certain: they endure. Not as buildings or rides, but as echoes of joy, fear, and wonder, etched into the land and the minds of those who once knew them. Imagine walking through an empty field where wildflowers grow between rusting tracks. You hear laughter carried on the wind, smell popcorn long stale, and feel the faint vibration of a roller coaster still ascending its highest peak. You look around, and in the corner of your eye, a carousel horse moves ever so slightly, as if nodding at you in recognition. These parks will never truly vanish. They are everywhere and nowhere, present in the whispers of the past, in photographs developed decades too late, in dreams where joy and fear intermingle. And if you listen closely, if you step lightly into the ruins of a world forgotten, you may hear them calling, inviting you for one last ride, where the gates are open, the lights are on, and the laughter never ends. Epilogue. Remembering the Forgotten. America's forgotten amusement parks are more than relics. They are monuments to imagination, fleeting happiness, and the strange energy left behind by generations who dared to dream. Some remain in memory only, some in photographs, and some still linger in the wind, waiting for those who remember, or those brave enough to rediscover them. The gates may be rusted, the rides may have decayed, but the spirit of play, the thrill, and the echoes of laughter will endure forever.